Barrow King, The Realms Book 1, an epic LitRPG adventure. Written by C.M. Carney. Narrated by Armen Taylor. 5. It would take them a few minutes to get out of the building. Ever mistrustful, Finn had long ago scouted an emergency exit from the bar. Despite numerous attempts to kill his past life, old training died hard. The Colonel had begun grooming Finn very early for a life he'd never wanted. It had caused a rift between father and son, and as soon as he was able, Finn had rushed to join the army to get away from the old man. How ironic that, as an adult, Finn had unknowingly worked for the Colonel. Now, it seemed, even Bryn had been unable to escape the Colonel's web. Finn forced the anger at his father down. He had no time to dwell on the past. He led Doc to an old ladder at the back of the kitchen, and they climbed to the roof. There, Finn placed a few planks he'd set aside ahead of time across the gap between buildings. "You're nuts if you think I'm crossing that," Doc said, then noticed more armed men entering the bar below. Doc found his courage and eased himself across the makeshift bridge. A terrifying jump from one rooftop to another and a few more ladders, and they were back on the ground. Finn led them to a small door in the alley. He grimaced as he placed his left hand against the scanner pad hanging next to the door. The pad made an angry noise, blared red, and refused to open. Finn scowled and pulled a small device from his sweatshirt pocket and inserted it into the keypad's data port. He'd grabbed the device and the gun in his waistband from a stash he kept under the floorboards of the storeroom. "Pretty sure that's not legal tech," Doc said as the door chirped and clicked open. "But I guess that's the smallest felony I've been a party to this afternoon." Finn gave him a glance that said, "You sure you're up for this?" A calm look crossed Doc's face, and he nodded. Finn pulled the door open and motioned for Doc to enter the small garage. Doc eased inside. A large mass covered in a tarp dominated the room. Finn pulled the tarp off to reveal a late-model sedan. Finn got behind the wheel, and Doc sat in the passenger seat. "Lex, open the door." The squeal of a long, unused motor broke the silence, and a garage door lifted into the ceiling. Finn started the car, rammed it into drive, and surged into the alley. Half an hour later, sure nobody had tailed them, Finn pulled onto a service road. Dozens of identical buildings lined the street. They were near the port where hundreds of the structures created a maze. Finn killed the engine. "This is it," Doc said, pointing to a squat two-story. Finn scanned the area, but they were alone. He pulled the pistol from his waistband, checked the safety and the cartridge, and looked at Doc. "Under normal circumstances, I'm not a fan of guns," Doc said, "but today has proven the exception." Doc flexed his bandaged hand. Guilt wormed its way into Finn's guts, but he shoved it down. There was no time for that now. "How's the hand?" Doc looked down on it. "Hurts like a son of a bitch, but I'll get proper treatment when this is all through." Finn nodded, and both men exited the car. Spotlights illuminated the doorways up and down the long row of buildings. A few doors down, a light flickered and went dark. Finn's hackles rose. "Classic technique," he muttered. He stared into the murk, seeking hidden opponents. "Lex, are you sensing any active lattice links?" "Nothing but the normal passive security links for the warehouses. This place is as dead as a disco." "You are one weird bastard, Lex." Finn shook his head and wondered again why the hell Bryn had given him Lex. "That hurts my feelings." Doc had walked up to the building indicated in the map. A high-tech lock secured the door. A quick survey of nearby doors told Finn that the new lock was abnormal. "What did you get yourself into, Bryn?" Doc looked to Finn, who nodded. Doc sent the code from his banner into the lock and, after a few seconds, a small chirp and a pleasant green glow rewarded them. A moment later, the sound of heavy bolts retracted from the doorframe and the door opened. Finn motioned for Doc to stay back as he hefted his pistol and entered the dark building. Dim lighting came on as Finn entered, tripped by motion sensors. The room was a simple 20 by 20 square. A small bed and fridge lined one wall. A couch sat towards the back of the room facing a holoviz. A small kitchenette rounded out the luxury. Another door was set into the back wall. On the wall next to the door was a small security monitor showing a long hallway of nearly identical doors. At the center of the room sat a large crate on a raised dais. It reminded Finn of a coffin in an ancient vampire movie, if the vampire had been an alien. The crate was modern malplast and held a banner panel at its center. Cool air suggested the room was climate-controlled. Another door at the back led to a hallway bearing dozens of identical doors. After assuring himself that the place was safe, Finn returned to the front. "It's safe, Doc." "So what's all this, then?" Doc said as he entered. Finn flipped the main power switch. More lights came on, and a low hum rose from underneath them. Finn saw a metal grate in the floor near the far wall. He lifted the grate, revealing a small fusion generator. Cables snaked from the generator up into the floor below the mysterious crate. "That thing puts out a crapload of power," Finn said. "What the hell is in that crate?" "Only one way to find out," Doc said, raising his hand again. Finn nodded, and Doc sent the code to the banner panel. The crate powered up, and the surface parted as if it were undergoing a controlled melting. Inside sat another coffin of glass, plymetal, and malplast. "It's a neural immersion rig. This technology was tested at my old hospital when it was still in the prototype phase. It was a program designed to help vets with PTSD through direct neural interface. They commercialized the technology for the NI helmets the beta players use to get into the realms. But this unit looks more advanced than any I've ever seen." Doc tapped at the interface. "This is how Bryn wants me to go into the realms?" "It makes sense. It has built-in biosensors and life support. Quite an advantage." Finn nodded. "Time to open her up." Doc moved towards the NI rig and placed his hand atop it. "Finn, I'm sensing an encrypted lattice link," Lex said. Then they were no longer alone.